before I start playing, I have a little story about this song I'm going to share. This song that I'm going to play for you guys is kind of about how fragile life is, and I wrote it at a time where I was feeling very restless. I'm a kind of a restless person who loves to move all the time, and with that restlessness, I oftentimes look to nature, the earth, to try to slow me down and like bring me back. So I planted many gardens in my house, very hit or miss every year that I've been at this place with the success of the garden or not. But either way, each time I've learned something, and it's had a big impact on me to just slow down. So what this song is kind of about is the idea that life is temporary, tomorrow's not guaranteed, and to grow the garden anyway. I mean, we're renting this place, so I'm like, should I even plant the garden? And time again I do, and it just proves to me that in this time of temporary space that you can always improve your life and improve the space that you live in. I'm still working on this. But anyway, I think that at the end of the day, like a lot of times with like the carpe diem and like tomorrow's not guaranteed, it's this like sense of urgency to get everything done and do everything, complete all your goals. But that kind of stresses me out. So the idea of planting a garden and slowing down and listening to nature, that always helps me to just, in the temporary time that we're here, it's very existential, but it allows me to slow down and just take life as it comes and not have that sense of urgency, but just to let it kind of flow. So that's what the song's about. And here it is. Let's see. So is the guitar, can you guys hear the guitar? Okay, cool. I'm coming out of it. There are seeds growing. Will my flowers grow? My mind is so when spinning round and round in my body now. And I'm falling into it. Water is dripping. Will my garden grow? My mind is sore. Roots going down and down in my body somehow. But I'm not scared of dying, but I think about what have I left behind. So grow your garden, drink your wine, love hard, don't fight, and we'll be just fine. Once you sneak out late, put your worries away, 'cause we're all just biding time at the end of the day. Hey, at the end of the day. Ease my mind with dirt under my fingernails. Work these hands so I don't lose myself again. Idle too long and the quiet deafens. Let me be still, but move with the season. dying. But I think about what have I left behind. So grow your garden, drink your wine, love hard, don't fight, and we'll be just fine. Won't you dance your fate, put your worries away, 'cause we're all just biding time at the end of the day. Hey, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, hey, at the end of the day, So grow your garden, drink your wine, love hard, don't fight, and we'll be just fine. Won't you dance your fate, put your worries away, 'cause we're all just biding time at the end of the day. All right.
I came into the world at 6 months, a tiny, frail, 3-pound, not wanted baby girl. Of course, I don't remember it, but I've often imagined how I came into the world, all the jagged pieces of how one little baby came into the world. Some babies are wanted, some are not. I was not. The young woman who gave birth to me called her parents and said, "If you don't come for this baby, I'm not sure what's going to happen to her." And then something wonderful happened. Her parents, my real parents, my true parents, my biological, maternal, adoptive grandparents, drove from Colorado to California after raising 8 children in a small house with 1 bathroom, and they decided to keep me too. They saved me. They wanted me. I was 5 months old. I had failure to thrive syndrome. It wasn't a perfect family, and at times there were deep wounds, but there was also amazing love, especially from my beloved mother. In many ways, her love healed me. But as I grew older, 4 voices made a home inside me. They became a part of me, taking up space at all the places in me where life had broken me. They were all the places I hated in myself, and no matter how far I tried to run from them, they always found me, because they never really left me. Many times throughout my life, whenever life conspired to break me, those voices awakened. It wasn't just the circumstances of my birth, it was my whole life. 1 time, 1,000 times, every time. Something or someone gave me the message again, not you. I don't want you. It was when other things injured my body or my soul or the way I saw myself, I continued to hear those voices. Sometimes it was a whisper that kept me awake at night. Sometimes they were screaming inside of me, and they were so loud that I couldn't hear anything else. 1, you will not be chosen. 2, you will not be wanted. 3, you will not be loved. 4, no matter what you do, you will never, ever be good enough. No one knows what's inside of you. No one. What if you knew you are a beautiful, hodgepodge, messy, thrown together piece of light masterpiece, and a one-of-a-kind, extraordinary, exquisite, beautiful, fierce, truly fabulous warrior soul? What if you knew that? But what if instead you knew you weren't that? What if instead you told yourself every day that no matter what, you are nothing or nothing special? What if you called yourself small, insignificant, unworthy, unlovable, stupid, defective, damaged, ugly, not good enough, or just plain broken? Many of us live with the scars of being left, abandoned, neglected, unchosen, unloved, or just not good enough. Perhaps the strongest voice that takes over and scares you the most is the one that tells you, if someone really saw me, if someone really knew me, then they would know what a broken down, broken up, messed up, effed up piece of discarded wreckage I am. I am a trauma therapist, which means I am humbled and blessed to sit with people who got lost somewhere when something happened to them. They somehow find the courage to sit with me in a room and tell me the hardest, deepest, most painful things that have ever happened. I tell them that they are sacred and that their broken places inside them are also sacred. We need to be careful, reverent with sacred souls and sacred places. That is the first breaking. It is a thing that happened to us, the place where something inside us broke. We are every moment, every breath, every sound, all that is conscious and all that is unconscious. We take it all in. We breathe it all in. Our bodies absorb every multisensory thing and send that information to the place in us where we try to make sense of it all. Our amygdala lights up and gives meaning to that experience. And the words, the negative beliefs that are born out of that meaning attach themselves to it. What happens when we listen to the wrong voice inside of us? When we believe the wrong thing because of something that happened to us, because of something someone said to us or did to us, we run the danger of living a greatly diminished life. We run the danger of never fully becoming all that we were meant to be. That is how the second breaking is born. The second breaking is all the things we believed about ourselves because of what happened to us. The second breaking is the uninvited voice in your head that knows all your broken places. It can often stay with you for years, all your life. The second breaking is the part you don't talk about. You don't let outside of yourself. You bury somewhere inside yourself and you hope no one can see those broken places on the outside. Sometimes you will do anything so that you don't even see them yourself. But you do have a choice. Your life depends on the choice that you make. Are you going to believe that voice in your head, the negative one, the one that you hear in your worst moments, on your worst days? Or are you going to look deep inside yourself and find the core of your being, the place in you where love and empathy and light are born, the one that you hear, Are you going to find the deeper, truer voice deep down inside of you? How do you find it? How do you find what is still inside of you? What has always been inside of you? Your deeper, truer voice. In 24 years in private practice, working in psychiatric units, sitting in hospital rooms with cancer patients and dialysis patients, and beautiful souls taking flight, leaving this weary, tired planet and traveling to their next glorious destination, or leading my beloved Queen Sisterhood group, or my beloved veterans group, I have humbly found the following things to help anyone find their way out of their own broken places. 1, say the thing that happened out loud. Don't run from it, don't bury it, and don't hide from it. There is something powerful about hearing your own voice say it out loud. When you let it outside yourself, it can't hold you prisoner anymore. And you find out that the world did not end. If you can, say it to someone you have found worthy to hear it. Your best friend, your cat Cecilia, a really good therapist. Remember, you are sacred. Nothing changes that. 2, stand up. By any means you can. Feel your feet underneath your body. Stand up in your heart, your soul, your thoughts, and then you will be ready for step 3. Step 3. Consider, what if those negative voices aren't true? What if they were never true? What if they are just scared little pieces of yourself that are trying to keep you from ever getting hurt again? So they tell you, stay down, stay inside, play small. Don't ever trust anyone again. Don't ever love anyone again. Not even you. Let the possibility that they were never true in, let the possibility fall somewhere inside you and let it become a part of you. Hold your own mirror. Don't let the broken pieces of yourself, your life, tell you who you are. Step 5, make friends with your fear, your terror, your anxiety, and pour love into yourself at all those terrified, broken places. Your entire body is trying to keep you safe. It is extremely important to listen to your body, but make sure you're also being curious and out of love for yourself, asking what you feel questions about to uncover the origins of where those feelings are coming from. And then feel your feelings. Feel them. When something stirs inside you, listen to it. Honor it. Ask yourself what you need in that moment. Wrap all your love and your courage around it. And remember, there is no place inside of you that is unworthy to heal, to be loved, to live your incredibly spectacular life. Step 6, maybe that's step 5. Find your words. Own them. Hold on.
We'll have Kleenexes up there.
Okay. Find your words, own them, wield them inside yourself and in the world when anyone, anything, any experience tries to take you down and break you. Speak into yourself with great love. Step 7, surround yourself with nature, beauty, hope, love, connection. Run in your body, in your mind, in your soul. Dream the thing that you are passionate about. Go after it. 8, you are meant to be here. You are a divine spark, no less than the stars. Okay, so then I have 3 potential stories. So I'm just gonna Michael, can you hand me my phone? That's where the first one is at. It might be on, yeah. I thought, maybe, you know what? I might have left it back there. Okay, I'm going to tell you the stories. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you one potential ending first. So you're meant to be here. You're a divine spark, no less than the stars. Sometimes you can get lost and afraid and forget what's inside of you. Thank you, darling. Yep. I recently took my children to Sequoia National Park. That might not seem like a big deal, but I'm a single mom who works for myself. I don't take vacations. My 22-year-old son had never seen the ocean. It was his first plane ride and his first time seeing the ocean. The beach had bright pink succulent flowers covering the sand everywhere. I walked along the cliff, mesmerized, as I watched my daughter dance and leap along the shoreline. It was as if she and the ocean were dancing together. We soaked up every drop of that weekend. We held hands, and I said a prayer watching the sunset over the ocean. We also drove to Sequoia National Park. Whoa! All I wanted was for my children to see that these magnificent, unabashed, glorious giants that reach to the sky. And of course, I wanted to hug them and send them love and thank them for growing and showing us who they are in the world. These beautifully spectacular sequoias were little babies once. They came into the world as a little seed, and they grew to become what was inside them all the time. Always remember what is inside you. Precious, sacred, truly lovable, no matter what. You. That's one ending. Another one is about someone who was a client of mine, so this is with her permission. And some things are changed so no one could recognize it. I got a phone call. Actually, I wrote that one down, so let me get that. Okay, that was to Michael. Okay. One second. Okay. She was stabbed 14 times by her then soon-to-be ex-husband. Hold on.
Reading for what you sent me.
Yeah. So I found it. She was stabbed 14 times by her then soon-to-be ex-husband as she was divorcing him in front of their 3 babies. The oldest one was 5. The youngest was 1. I watched her sit up in a hospital bed in extreme pain as if nothing was wrong when they came through the door of the hospital room. The oldest said, "Mommy, you're alive." And she said, as if she had the superpowers of all the mommies everywhere, "Of course I am. I am your mommy." It was one of the bravest things I've ever seen. When she got out of the hospital, we went back to the scene. I wanted her to see that she survived it all. It was over. Today she lives with the man she loves, who loves her, and all their lovable children. They have a beautiful life. Whatever happened to you, let it be over now. Say inside yourself, it is over now. Hold your own mirror. Own the truth of who you are. You are a spark of the divine, no less than the stars. So that's one. Third possible story. It was a late Friday afternoon. It was a few days before Christmas. The snow had started to fall hours ago. And usually on a Friday afternoon, I can't wait to go home. It had been a long week, and I got a text. Well, for some reason that day, I didn't go home. I just stared at the Christmas lights I had around the windows of my office, and I watched the snow fall. And then I got a text. It wasn't, I saved all my contacts in my phone, so it wasn't someone I knew, and I didn't know where it was coming from. It said, I am feeling unsteady now. I had no idea who it was, and I didn't want to say, hey, who is this? So I said, I'm right here. And they told me that they didn't want to be on this planet anymore. And I said, stay with me. Just stay with me. Where are you? I'm on my way. And I went into high gear. That day I had 3.5-inch boots on and a big winter coat, and this person was on a cliff. And I told him, I'm coming. Just stay with me. And I felt a little bit like Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life. And I said, you know, darling, I'm going to climb to you, but I'm not sure I can get there because I'm in 3.5-inch boots. And he said, don't worry, I'll run down to you. And he got off the cliff because he wanted to make sure I was okay. And then we sat in my car and we talked about his beautiful family and that it was going to be Christmas Day soon. And I told him I wanted him to imagine his children's faces when they opened their Christmas presents, and that no matter what he was going through, we would get through it together. And today, that gentleman is well loved. And his children think he is a wonderful daddy. And his wife thinks that she is glad that she married him. And I am blessed to have had that experience. I told you that to remind you that we all have moments. We all have moments that scare us and terrify us, and there's moments when we think we are nothing. Look deeper. And if you can't feel that at the moment, believe me when I say it's still coming to you. Okay, so that is it.
Nice way to end. Okay.
Here's what it's like to be a doctor in the United States. We spend years gathering and storing massive amounts of information: how the human body functions, what happens when a body encounters disease, how a medication controls or reverses disease, how long a patient can expect to live with disease, whether or not they should expect to die from a disease, and whether or not a disease should be surgically removed. And if you're a surgeon like me, all the steps that go into doing the surgery to treat the disease. It's a framework based on certainty, facts, data, predictability, truths, known knowns, or what is also known as white swans. As a surgeon, I must admit that this was my worldview for almost the entirety of my career. Then, in early 2024, I discovered the concept of the black swan. I'll tell you more about black swans in a minute, but before I do, just know that when I started looking for black swans in my surgical practice last year, the result was that my ability to diagnose, treat, and connect with patients on a meaningful level exploded. My communication skills improved, my diagnostic abilities improved, my efficiency improved, and my patients reaped the benefit. It is important to note that the framework with which doctors are trained in the US is a sound and very important one. Facts matter, evidence matters, data matters, but especially in a system that fails to honor the physician-patient relationship as the beating heart of healthcare, our current framework tends to blind us to the nuanced truth. And that is a major problem. The current framework, which is based on evidence and data, known knowns, or white swans, is blinding physicians, creating a disconnect between patient and clinician and leading to less than ideal health outcomes. The United States is ranked last in health outcomes compared to other high-income countries. This despite the fact that the US spends more on healthcare than any other country. Now, there are many reasons for that, especially in a system as expensive, dysfunctional, complicated, and broken as the US healthcare system. But one of the driving factors behind poor health outcomes in this country is the narrow lens through which physicians are taught to approach patients. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Instead of guiding us like a North Star, pointing us in the right direction, we tend to rely on known knowns as the end-all be-all, and that creates a situation where physicians perceive the world through a narrow lens, as black or white. Patient has high blood pressure, prescribe a blood pressure lowering medication. Patient meets criteria for surgery, sign them up for surgery. Problem is, we are dealing with humans here, and humans live in shades of gray, of unknown unknowns, or what is known as the black swans. As physicians, we limit our ability to treat patients by the narrow lens through which we see the world. A shift in our perspective and intentionally prioritizing the uncovering of unknown unknowns or black swans could revolutionize healthcare like it has other industries, leading to improved patient compliance, improved efficiency, and ultimately improved health outcomes. The swan metaphor has been around for centuries. In 17th century London, the term black swan was used to describe an impossible event, because at that time, and in that part of the world, all swans were assumed to have white feathers. But in 1636, a Dutch sailor named Antonio Kane spotted a black swan near Bernier Island off the western coast of Australia, and the notion that all swans had white feathers was shattered. The term black swan evolved to represent a truth that unknowingly exists in reality, or an impactful event that will happen. But we can only uncover this truth or predict this event if we ask the right questions. That is, if we intentionally get curious. Some of the common black swan events that have happened were the 2008 housing market crash and 9/11. The term black swan was popularized by former Wall Street trader Nicholas Nassim Taleb in his book, The Black Swan, published in 2007. The term was brought to the FBI by former hostage negotiator, author of Never Split the Difference, and founder of the Black Swan Group, Chris Voss. The concept of the black swan has not only revolutionized hostage negotiations for the FBI, but has also improved communication and efficiency of industries like sales, finance, legal services, real estate, and human resources. One industry this framework has not yet penetrated is healthcare, and it's time to change that. Let me be clear, the medical education system is doing a great job in many ways. There is no way to treat patients without knowing the facts, the evidence, the data, the known knowns, or the white swans. In a framework of white swans, a patient comes in with a problem, a set of symptoms. And we physicians are tasked with the duty to first do no harm, the Hippocratic oath we took when we entered medical school. Our job is to do right by our patient. But what does that mean? If a patient who is coming in with chronically high blood pressure is willing to change their diet, start an exercise program, and change their lifestyle, but is unwilling to take a pill every day for the rest of their lives, that's good to know. That's an unknown unknown. That's a black swan. If a patient comes in with a surgical problem and their neighbor's uncle died because of a complication from surgery, and now they're secretly terrified of surgery, that's good to know. Another black swan. As the surgeon, it's part of my job to get curious, to embody a beginner's mind, a don't know mind, and ask the right questions, to uncover pieces of information like that. It is the black swans that often inform the treatment plan for that unique individual human. And that is our primary goal, after all, to first do no harm, to serve the patient. But this is not the usual framework physicians and surgeons use to communicate with patients. What typically happens when patients come in with a problem is we say, thank you. Then we reach into our giant bag of white swans, known knowns, data, evidence, guidelines, and we put it on them, assuming the patient is ready and willing to receive it. We basically shove white swans down the patient's throat. You have high blood pressure, here's your prescription, have a great day. You have a problem that's fixed with surgery, sign this consent form, let's go to surgery. You can see where this could become problematic, right? Well, it gets worse. It would be one thing if we were just dealing with a white swan problem, a known problem, but we physicians allow another type of swan to cloud our judgment, the red swan. The red swan is a known unknown. It exists in the physician's mind as a possibility based on data, others' experiences, or our own lived experience. But it is not actively happening to our patient in the moment. Red swans differ from black swans in that we can predict and plan for them. By definition, we don't know what we don't know. And we uncover what we don't know only when we get curious and ask the right questions. While black swans are born of curiosity, a beginner's mind, and presence, red swans are born of pure anxiety. Red swans are illusions, possibilities, but they create real-time effects in the body and mind of the physician who is focusing on them, clouding our judgment, narrowing our cognitive capacity, and reducing our ability to uncover all of those important black swans. One common example of red swan decision-making is the clinician who inappropriately prescribes an antibiotic to a patient presenting with upper respiratory or cold-like symptoms. The clinician gives them an antibiotic just in case, out of an abundance of caution, which is code for I'm anxious that I'm going to miss a bacterial infection, despite the fact that data out of the University of Michigan suggests that 99% of bacterial sinus infections are misdiagnosed. 99%. That statistic illustrates how strong red swans can be for us. As clinicians, we often find ourselves caught in an anxiety spiral over red swans, like misdiagnoses, inadvertently hurting a patient, a bad Google review for not giving the patient for what they want. And the biggest red swan of all, being reported to the Board of Medicine or being slapped with a malpractice lawsuit. The healthcare industry is full of red swans, and the effect of that is a limited ability for physicians and clinicians to do our job, to first do no harm. It makes sense in the high-stakes, highly regulated industry of healthcare, fraught with epidemic levels of moral injury and burnout. It's a tall order to ask a physician to shelf their anxieties and get curious. It can seem a lot easier to just prescribe the antibiotic, to just order the unnecessary scan, to take action from a place of fear, rather than shift our brain to start looking for black swans. But looking for the black swans is everything. We can't first do no harm, we can't serve the unique individual patient in front of us until we identify the black swans, the unknown unknowns, which requires connecting with the patient on a human level. We have to move out of our doctor brain and consciously and deliberately shift into our human brain. Who is our patient? Who are they as a person? What do they think about their symptoms? What would success look like for them? This is in direct contradiction to the culture of paternalism, or the idea that it's acceptable to limit someone's freedom for their own good. In training, culture sends this paternalistic message that we know best because we hold all the white swans, and white swans are king. It's past time for us to break free from that cultural narrative in healthcare. Is there any data to suggest doctors don't actually know best? Dr. Mark Schreim and colleagues looked at that question. They conducted a study to uncover the preferences of people when faced with a life-threatening illness. They asked 2,359 research subjects to consider a hypothetical but lethal disease that might be curable or not, and might financially destroy them or not, and then ask them what mattered more to them, physical death or financial ruin. What they found was that 33% of people chose to do everything possible no matter the cost. 60% of people needed more information about the cost and treatment before deciding. And 8% chose to die of a lethal disease rather than risk bankruptcy or financial ruin for their families. This study illustrates the nuanced nature of medical decision-making. Patients have ideas and opinions about their lives and the lives they lead. If the responses vary this greatly in the face of a life-threatening illness, consider the variance when we're talking about all of the non-life-threatening problems people face and bring to their doctor. Yet how many physicians ask patients if their problem is a problem worth solving? Or what their values are, their priorities, their goals, who they are as a person, what lights them up, what are their hobbies, what interests them, what brings them joy? How many other humans depend on them, and for what? What have their previous experiences been like with the healthcare system, and how does that color their opinion of healthcare in general? What do they worry about most in terms of their symptoms, diagnosis, or care? What are their financial concerns? I couldn't help but be reminded of Swan Theory last fall when my husband and I stood next to our 11-year-old son while he lay on a stretcher in the ER, concern on our faces as he writhed in pain, doubled over and moaning. He had been suffering like that for 3 hours. The usual workup consisted of studies to rule out appendicitis, an ultrasound and blood work, and for what it's worth, the test came back inconclusive. Then, music to our ears, the sound of a wonderfully long fart. Our son carefully unfolded his body out of the fetal position, then gingerly stood up and proclaimed, "I feel so much better. I'm hungry, actually." But the relief my husband and I felt in that moment, with this new knowledge that his abdominal pain was just gas, quickly transformed into fear. We couldn't just walk out of the emergency room. The emergency room physician was the gatekeeper of our fate. The ER doctor entered our room, and we were eager to share the fact that our son felt better, and were hoping we would be discharged. But she didn't seem to be too interested in the new information that had come to light that our son was pain-free after passing some gas, a very important black swan event for our family. She explained that because the information, the data, the white swans, were inconclusive and incomplete, our son needed to be ambulanced to a higher level facility where they could do more studies and definitively rule out appendicitis. She gave us two options: leave the hospital against medical advice and be saddled with the likely tens of thousands of dollars in cost, or agree to the transfer. In my mind, we didn't have a choice. Of course we were going to agree to be ambulanced to another facility. What family would choose to leave against medical advice, meaning their insurance company wouldn't pay for the visit and they would have to bear the financial burden? In a moment of passion, I explained all of this to the ER doctor. I'm not even sure what I said because I blacked out. With passion, after my impassioned monologue, the ER doctor looked at me thoughtfully, arms crossed, for about 30 seconds. "Okay," she said, "I'm gonna let you go." And that's as far as I got, but I'll end it. But that's kind of the structure I wanted. Is it better?
Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
How many of you aspire for your children to live just above the poverty line? When you dream about their future, do you want them to choose between paying rent or putting food on the table? Of course not. I know that you want more for your children. I bet you want them to be able to access education, to get a good job, access healthcare, and settle down. Certainly, that's what I want for my kids. As a professional who's worked in global development and poverty alleviation for over 25 years, not only do I see how my children live, I've been able to see how children in Africa, Asia, and Latin America get by. Going without meals, electricity, and running water are the norm. Hospital care and a high school education are luxuries. Yet, unlike our own aspirations, when a family in a low-income country lives just above the equivalent of the poverty line, we consider them to be lucky. If they manage to consistently put food on the table, we say they are thriving. Why is that? Why do we have a different standard when it comes to their children compared to our own? Do we just accept that they are poor and shrug? Or should we measure any and all human development by the same yardstick? As a humanitarian, I've reached a point where I have serious questions about the standards we've set for success in global development. One that weighs heavy on my heart is why, as a global community, do we measure success by the number of people who aren't starving to death? Living below the poverty line for them means surviving on less than $2.15 a day. Yes, the cost of living is lower in poor countries, but $2.15 buys little no matter where you are. You can't pay for school books, medicine, or even a pair of jeans. It's just enough to keep you fed. I believe that the global community has focused on the international poverty line as a measure of success for too long. We can't continue to measure progress by the number of people who haven't starved to death. We've set the progress bar so low that we are literally tripping over it. It's not enough to just survive. If you believe, as I do, that all families should be able to access basic housing, access sanitation and education, and the ability to buy nutritious foods, then we need a new measure for success for families globally. Currently, there's more than 700 million people across the globe who live in extreme poverty, earning and spending less than $2.15 per day. We also know that more than half of the families in the world, representing 4.7 billion people, live below the economic empowerment line. That marker where families have sufficient income to invest in education, housing, energy, and water for the household, access to healthcare, sanitation, and improved nutrition to thrive for the long term. That is where generational change can occur. $12.15 per day doesn't sound like a lot of money. It's what we might spend at Starbucks on the way to work. But generating that kind of income every day in a low-income country isn't easy. So how do we get there? How can families be lifted out of poverty and become empowered? Since my days in Peace Corps and across my years in global development, one commonality I've seen across cultures and geographies, including the US, is this: the greatest drivers of change and prosperity in communities are women. Mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and aunts are united in their desire to see their families and their communities thrive. While men, of course, love their children too, evidence show that women invest more in the well-being of their families and their communities. To make real change that moves communities from poverty to prosperity requires that whole families be elevated, because families make up communities. Empowering women as a force for good elevates families because women never give up. When it comes to the well-being of her family, a woman will do everything she can to see them survive and thrive. In my own life, I grew up in a lower middle-income family in Iowa. My mother was tenacious in helping me find entrepreneurial solutions to be able to have experiences that we couldn't easily afford. One example was Girl Scout camp. As many parents will tell you, summer camps are quite expensive, but also very rewarding for the kids who are fortunate enough to attend. As a Girl Scout, if you sold enough Girl Scout cookies, and I mean a lot, you could qualify to go to camp for free. My parents made it clear that cookie sales were my ticket to going to camp. My mom grabbed a map of my hometown and the list and location of all the Girl Scout troops in our communities. We targeted my cookie sales for those neighborhoods where no Girl Scout troops lived. Night after night for a month, every year, my mother took me door to door in new neighborhoods to sell cookies. By targeting these untapped neighborhoods, I always managed to sell enough cookies. Today, in my travels throughout my career, time and time again, I have seen mothers in low-income countries with the same aspiration and drive for their children that my mother had for me. Living just above the poverty line isn't enough for them and their families. When they go out into the field to harvest their crops or travel to the market to sell their produce, they want a better life for their children than the one that they've known. They want their children to be teachers and nurses, and they want the next generation to be doctors and lawyers. At my organization, IDE, we've just announced our new strategy to power 1 million women entrepreneurs to foster prosperity in their community for 100 million people. We know that when we power women as entrepreneurs, they invest their profits in their family and in their community, and they drive prosperities to others every day. Last year, I was fortunate to meet a woman in Zambia named Salima. She's a mother, a sister, and a friend. And in partnership with IDE, Salima went from being a farmer to becoming a business owner and entrepreneur, owning multiple agricultural shops that sell seeds and fertilizer to more than 5,000 farmers in her community. Another woman, Alice, also a farmer, saw Salima's example and was so inspired by her, she did the same. Through her own efforts and guided by Salima, Alice started her own company and became an entrepreneur herself. I met another woman last year in Kenya named Benteter. Benteter was also a farmer looking to increase her income and better serve her community. She was supported to purchase a multi-crop thresher to provide processing services to other farmers in her community. Benteter quickly grew her business to serve hundreds of farmers, from serving hundreds of farmers to serving thousands of farmers. Like Salima, Benteter helped 3 other women to start processing businesses that generate profits for their family and help to increase the profitability of hundreds of family farms. By this point, you might be asking, how can you help? Philanthropists like you are needed. Did you know that everyday Americans gave a total of $374 billion to charities in 2023? And of this amount, $29 billion, or less than 10%, was directed to international causes. And when it comes to women and girls, both globally and in the United States, only 2% of charitable giving supports women and girls to thrive. When you invest in women entrepreneurs like Salima and Benteter, your donation is multiplied by the income created through these incredible businesses and the prosperity they drive to others. So I have more I have to flesh out in that section. And then closing somewhere around, imagine the resources we could apply to this approach if more women and men, like each of you, started investing in women and women entrepreneurs in the Global South. In my years in development, I've seen it over and over again, that when women thrive, everyone thrives. This is a fundamental truth that undergirds the move from poverty to prosperity. So if you believe that all families deserve a chance to thrive, where all kids can go to school, have a roof over their heads, and food in their bellies, join me in investing your dollars to support organizations that center women as powerful drivers of prosperity and generational change in their families. Join me in investing in entrepreneurial women like Salima and Benteter, and watch as they power their families, their communities, and their countries to break free from poverty and break through to prosperity. That's it.